let's talk about Blood Bond, okay?
Yeah, let's. So that
Where
was
did you call me up, Bey, or at some point did you call me and say, "Hey, I've got some money. We can." How do we even?
by my recollection,
Your
because that
recollections are
script I
better than
wrote.
mine. Yeah, I no, you've got a
Very
very good
badly
memory.
for now. I probably have another year,
Well, yeah,
but
I got a few years on you, so
I'd written the script for what became Blood Bond very early in my tenure in Hong Kong, and like in most writers, I'd written many more movies than ever got made. So that was one of them, and had my tenure at that time with Miramax, which gave me access to connections and money and whatever. But my recollection is when we did Dragon Squad, you had read the script and said, "Oh, this is really interesting." You had another script called The Mercy House
yeah,
that you wanted to do. Maybe we should have done that instead. Anyway,
yeah,
but that was with you and Maggie. You and Maggie would have done that one. It was about a father losing his Eurasian daughter and tracking her down. And
yeah.
you had that script. I think it was written by Dallas Sonnier. Was that the guy that you brought in?
No, no,
No, it
no, not
was
Dallas. We know Dallas, but no, that was
Oh,
that. No,
Travis
I
okay.
wrote
Romero,
I,
wasn't
Anyway,
it?
I wrote
so
that script with
oh, you
a
wrote
guy
Mercy
named
House. Okay.
Travis. Yeah,
And then there was you read Blood Bond and go, okay, well, this is kind of cool and interesting. And it was very different from what we ended up shooting. But anyway, that was the first thing. And then I said, well, if I get the money to do it, then, not direct, but you should star in the film. And yeah, so in the intervening time, I mean, there's so many criticisms that one can make about me, but one that I don't think will be founded is that I'm not loyal. So I was like, if I said you were going to star in the movie, then you're going to star in the movie, and regardless, whatever. And then, so it was some years after, and I just said, look, I've got the money. Let's do this movie. Um, the mystery in my mind is the obvious thing to do, and what would have made a lot more sense would have been to have you and Maggie star in the film. And I can't for the life of me. I think by that point, she had gone Hollywood and perhaps I don't know. Maybe I felt it was going to be imposing on our friendship to say, please come back and do a low budget film. I didn't feel that way about you because I already offered you the part. But we ended up, as you know, we got this incredible girl, Phoenix, who the great missed opportunity of, she should
well,
have been somebody, right?
let me say something about Phoenix, okay? And that is, Bey, I heard you on the other podcast say that, she was, there was listen, on this podcast, stupidly, at one point, called you a gopher, okay? And, the shit comes out of my mouth. I kind of meant you were doing stuff for me.
Yeah.
Obviously you had a producer's credit on it. That hurt your feelings, I think. You went on another podcast, and one of
Yeah.
the things that you talked about was the girl that I didn't know you cast. I mean, we cast her together. I guess she was a very pretty girl. And one of your criticisms of me was that like I didn't spend enough time with her to try to get like a performance out of her. And Bey, sometimes it's hard to get blood from a stone.
Yeah.
I don't. And she went on to do what? Even in that podcast, you were like, I don't know what happened. She did one more thing, and
No,
nothing
I
ever
don't even
happened
wanna,
with her. I don't know why.
I don't even know
She
that
couldn't
I don't
fucking.
even know that I want to kind of like kick a dead dog now, because I mean it's like obviously her career didn't happen, and I know to some degree that she was her own worst enemy. By the way, I think at the time it was just yeah, I hear what you're saying,
She
and
could.
I also think her huge problem was that she had I mean a number of gifts. I mean, she was stunningly beautiful. I thought she was a nice person. She was her physicality was
I
extraordinary.
agree
I mean,
100%.
all of that. the area that I think was a problem was she somehow
The
felt she
acting,
could already
the
act.
acting, the
And I
acting
think
part.
it might be unfair of me to, but okay, there were my model for the movie was the African Queen, and that crusty old,
Yeah,
Humphrey Bogart
yeah,
and
yeah.
Catherine Hepburn. There were some scenes in the movie, if you go back and look through them again, where some of that happened. And I just think maybe that got lost in all the chaos of shooting at Ace or what have you. But I hear what you're saying, and I think you're absolutely right. It's unfair of me. But it was interesting. Even though the other girl, the bad girl, did not speak English, I remember you were far more taken with her um, as a performer and her persona than with Phoenix. And you even
Well,
said to me, that's, do you remember her? The girl
the
who came in to
Chinese
play the
girl,
bad girl?
the Chinese girl, the girl that came
Yeah,
in from China,
yeah,
she
yeah.
was unbelievable. We'll get to her in a second, okay?
Oh,
I,
sure.
I, I wanted
So,
to.
if you want to, do you want to know what happened to Phoenix, or you want to talk about her some more? Please go ahead.
No, I just felt like,
Yeah,
I thought it felt a little bit when you were talking on the other
yeah,
podcast, it was sort of
yeah.
there was a mention of like me not spending enough time with her to get a good performance out of her, and maybe
Right.
I was jealous because she was so right, she was so good that or something, and I
Yeah,
just
no,
want to.
absolutely. I was thinking, is it? I
You
mean, it
were
would have
hurt
made
because I
sense.
called you a gopher, and you.
But I mean, I think I have enough removed to go. I'm thinking, why was it a concern that if she is, if she kind of like because she's a stunningly beautiful kung fu fighting girl and she steals every scene. I mean, does it diminish you as an actor? I don't know.
She
That
didn't
crossed
steal
my mind, but you
anything.
said it's
She
not
was
the case.
terrible. I couldn't get her to
No, no, no,
fucking.
no. You're right, Michael. I mean, I think as an actor, she felt she was good and she wasn't. I was just thinking about the fact that she was on camera. She looked stunning. She's very beautiful.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
her movement when she did the action, which obviously in an action film is, and when we did the reshoots, she did a lot more even than she did the first time around. And she was just, I would put her in the top, 3%, 2% of Asian fighting women I've ever worked with.
Okay.
Um,
I'm just
she
saying
kind
that
of,
I'm just saying I couldn't get a. Hey, let me go
good.
back to something else too. I
Sure.
didn't I didn't I didn't ask you to direct that movie, did I?
Nope.
No.
I asked you to do it.
You asked me to do it, and I think one of the
Yeah.
reasons that you asked me to do it was because you thought it would help promote the movie in sales that I was directing. I had never directed. I had never directed.
No, I'll tell you what it was. I felt that, well, first of all, I couldn't find anybody who I trusted locally to do this English language picture, and certainly none of the people that Henry Look, the owner of the studio, had around. And I felt that by osmosis, that you'd work with some of the greatest directors, James Cameron and Michael Bay and William Friedkin. By osmosis, that you would have taken on some knowledge of directing. And I think you did, because I mean, to even have the film that we had completed as a feature that some people even today said to me, "Oh, I saw that movie and I quite liked it." That you must be a director because I didn't direct it. So you must have been, So I didn't think about the marketing. My only, if you say Michael Biehn from Terminator, Aliens, The Rock, Tombstone, that's as an actor, that's gold. That's what we wanted. But I look back on it, and even I'm very slow to. I don't know why. Some other guys
To
stir
admit you're
stuff up
wrong.
between you and me. Oh, definitely. But I mean, I just want to say that when some people stirred up that some animosity. But I think if you watch the whole interview I did with David at Viking Samurai, I don't think it's all mean spirited. But I mean, I
It's
certainly,
not. It's
you know,
not. It's
yeah,
not all mean
yeah.
spirited. I just
We wouldn't
wanted
be
to.
talking now if it was
No, no,
probably.
no, no, no. I just wanted to point out a few of what I consider because
Yeah,
you're talking about writing a book, and I
yeah,
can't wait to read it. You're writing it.
yeah,
When it comes out, I'll read it. This is
yeah.
my book. Okay,
Yeah.
this is my book.
By the
So
way, from what I read in the comments, all the fans want you to write your books. If you need
no,
help,
this is
give
no,
me.
I can't write. So
I can. Well, maybe we'll collaborate on something. But I'm definitely doing my own book, which is called "Falling Off the Dragon's Back," which I'll describe. I'll explain another time why it's called that. But I'm certainly taking on board the fact that you don't want me to recount these stories in that book.
no,
So
no. Here was my experience of it was that first of all, you hired a pretty good DP. The
yeah,
DP,
his name was Ross Clarkson, and
yeah,
he'd done a lot of
yeah,
action pictures. Australian guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Ross was a good DP, and the where we shot in China, what was it called?
It was called Ace Studios in a city called Nanhai, Lamhoi.
Nanhai. It was gorgeous. I mean, if you want production value as far as like being in China and being out in the country and all of this kind of, it was absolutely fabulous. And when we were going on kind of location scouts and stuff like that, I'm like, oh my God, look at this. And oh my God, look at that. Oh my God, look at this. I think that one of the things that we might have to agree to disagree on, Bey, was the fact that that studio that I'm not sure if they'd ever made a movie before, that group that called themselves the studio. I know that you said in your interview that some other director, like a Hong Kong director or Chinese director, whatever, worked with them and did something well.
No, no, this was Blood Bond was the first, I would say, proper movie. The movie before that, You're In, The Forest. That was Henry's film. But we'll probably get to that story in a bit. But anyway, so you were actually in their first film as well as Blood Bond.
Well, well, listen. First of all, it was a group of people. In my mind, this is the way I read it. It was called the movie studio, but like the sound guy had never done sound. The wardrobe people had never done wardrobe. The hair people had never done like it was just a group of people. He called his crew, his crew, and it's kind of hard to work as a director. Not that I'm a director anyway. I don't. I spent too much time thinking about myself and my roles to pay attention too much to Jim and all those sort of guys. But I wasn't getting much help from the people that were in that studio. Would you agree with that?
And I also think that for me that was my first film moving into lead position. I'm trying to think because I mean, when you do something like a Medallion with Jackie Chan, yeah, you're a producer, but you're a cog within this big machine.
Yes.
With Ace, you had to be the guy, and I was still figuring my own shit out, and I think if I had it to do over, I could have supported you better and known how to maneuver around that and kind of like it was almost like I felt it was like a Roger Corman experience. And a lot of great directors did their first movie on a Roger Corman shoot, like Coppola,
not
Scorsese,
not great movies. not
no,
necessarily Eat My Dust and Boxcar Bertha. Yeah.
With when I think you could. This is what I perceived Nanhai to be have the potential of being, and the following year, and I think the difference was, well, for one thing, you were an actor who I persuaded and kind of cajoled into being a director. And by the way, I want to say one thing for the record about Michael as a team player. You didn't get paid $1 more to direct. You did the whole thing. You directed for free. So I mean, there's not many friends who would do that for you. But the next year, I had another guy come back who was French, who was purely a director. And I think I'd come into myself a bit as a producer, and I'd known how to work Henry Look and the studio. So the film we could do then, and I wish I could go back. It's like, if I knew then what I know now, if I could go back and do Blood Bond
What?
again,
What?
I think I could have given you better support and gone into every day with a like, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this different and interesting? There was still some stuff in there which was, had great scale to it and looked incredible. I
Well,
mean,
there was, like I said, the first of all, we had carte blanche. We could go
yeah,
anywhere and we could shoot anything. Now, I
yeah.
didn't realize it at the time, but we would just go to somebody's house and I would go inside of it and I go, I like this. The next thing I knew, those people were gone out of that house. They were like, and it wasn't until about halfway through the shoot that I realized that the two guys that were finding locations, that were making people show up. Oh, by the way, dozens and dozens of extras, always extras, like anything we needed.
Remember, we had the guru, the guy that gets shot, and he's speaking, and you have all the people coming in from the fields like Gandhi, and you've got this crane shot
Right.
it's like a David Lean movie.
Well,
People as far as the eye can see.
well, there were two guys that were in a car that seemed to always be able to organize all this stuff. And
They were the local gangsters who were known as
about halfway through the shoot,
the
guy said, "Get in the back seat. I'll get you over there because I needed to go someplace." I got in the back seat.
There was two of them. There was
a
a
baseball
skinny
bat in the back.
Skinny one, yeah. That's right. And he had a baseball bat in the back of his car, and it's all dinged up from, I guess, hitting people. And Michael,
Get out of here! We want to shoot. We want to shoot in here. Get out! Bring me 150 extras in 10 minutes, so I'm gonna be,
That was it. And then, but that same guy you put in the movie playing a soldier, and he kind of like just dented his elbow on something.
Yeah,
I'm like, boy, you're the same guy with the baseball bat. He was like, whatever.
So because I was used to a normal crew.
Yeah.
And I was used to the art direction and I was used to people doing their jobs. And I felt I was running around doing so many other, and you were busy. You would come in and you were kind of,
first of all, credit. I think I allowed myself to be distracted by other things going on around. And I did not appreciate, that, and I tried to say this, actually, it was a mistake. I didn't phrase it right, but you were doing an interview with one of those Michael Biehn fan sites, and I spoke about it, and I just said something like, I should have given Michael more support because I've been the white guy working in Hong Kong by that point for so many years. I just knew a culture of like, pretty much everybody's Chinese, and they speak English to different levels. None of them particularly know their job. And you were in at the deep end. And I look back on it and I think I could have been more supportive.
Well, that's okay. And listen, Bey, it's fucking 20 years though. I don't give a shit. It's my book.
To me, the only thing is what you learn from it. And I saw The Victim, and I thought you did a really good spit on your grave horror flick.
Again, The Victim was made for $200,000. Which I took 50 of, okay? So that's a completely different story. But
Right.
I wanted to mention a couple other things before we kind of get off the subject. One of the things, which is absolutely true, is that I was like screaming like, motherfucker, God damn it, fucking God, I just absolutely like at least once a day.
You would lose your voice, which was a problem because you had scenes. We had ADR.
Maybe twice a day, I would absolutely lose it because there would be things that would happen like, okay, we're ready to shoot. You ready? We got everybody in place. We kind of rehearsed that. Okay, what? A hammer. Okay. Can I have a hammer, please? A hammer.
You waited half an hour for a hammer.
A hammer. Like a hammer? A hammer? Can I
Yeah.
have a hammer, please? Like a hammer? Some guy goes, oh, okay. And he'd run off and fucking never come back. And I'd tell somebody else, give me a hammer. You know, like a half an hour later, I'm still sitting there waiting for a hammer.
Waiting for the hammer. And that's where I should have been there with the hammer in one hand and the hot
Well,
coffee
you
in the
were you look like you were setting up your next movie or working on. You were listen. I don't. So I did scream, and I screamed a lot in that movie. But one of the things I have to say is they're all fucking Chinese. They had no idea what I was screaming, and I never screamed at anybody. I never screamed like you motherfucker, get me a hammer. I just went like, God help me, God, right?
This was
true?
right after the famous Christian Bale rant. So I had great concerns that this video of you would get out and damage you and damage the movie. So I went up to the making of guy and I said, can you give me that footage? And he goes, it's no problem. Michael told me every time he starts yelling to cut.
Right.
So we have like hours of footage of Michael going, and then cutting. So we didn't do anything. No, I would never have used it. My concern was, because what happened with the Christian Bale thing was, I think it was hugely unprofessional that somebody leaked that and that it was then the subject of whatever it was subject of. It was something that should have been kept within that production and dealt with. And the same thing with us. I didn't want that going out and Michael being misrepresented, because you're absolutely right. A lot of times you were just yelling to the heavens.
Yes,
it's
because
like,
nobody spoke English. Nobody
that's
spoke.
true.
You know, I did have a translator that was there sometimes and wasn't there other times. But here's the bottom line, and this is why I wanted. I feel, Bey, that it's unfair to call me the director of the movie, and that's why this is going back to like when Jim Cameron shot Piranha. Okay,
Yes,
he shot it. And then they came in and said, thank you very much. See you later. Can I have those keys? And that was that. They didn't let him into the editing room.
yeah.
So it was, and you're the producer. You've got your own, and I don't fault you for, like, you've got your own decisions to make for whatever reasons. But we finished that movie.
Yeah.
And I came back to Los Angeles with the understanding in my mind that I thought that I got from you, and thought we all along it was going to be this way, that I was going to take a couple of weeks off. I was going to fly back to Hong Kong and cut the movie, do the music, do the sound design, all that kind of stuff that directors do. And you never brought me back.
And that was a mistake. I should have brought you back to that. I tried to. I mean, I did the first. I think my recollections overall are fairly accurate on that point, and I've admitted it in writing and admit it now. I was wrong. You're going to kind of like hurl something at me. You're going to hurl a cold can of coffee at my head.
Bey, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Laugh my ass about all of this shit now. You know, 20 years ago.
Counter interview was that you had, but what I realized was, and this is why I suppose to some degree I think the truth lies somewhere in between. What happened was, why we didn't bring you back, or what was happening then, I don't know. But we edited what had been shot, sent it to you, and I have emails from you with notes and comments, and you didn't like this, you like that, whatever. Overall, you signed off on it. And
wait. I'm in LA.
Yeah.
I don't have a studio.
You should have been brought.
I don't have anything. You send me a cut of the movie and say, what do you think? And I'm like, what am I going to do?
What are you going to say?
I don't have any way to cut the movie. It's not. No. It's your movie at this point. Right. And
I think that the reason I had that sense that it was your cut was because the footage was shot in such a way that it fit, and that I think does speak to your competence as a director, that even an idiot like me could go in the editing room and cut it A, B, C, D, and it would cut together as a smooth movie from beginning to end. And you had a film that you could play in theaters in Hong Kong. A film that you could take to Cannes.
You've heard the sentence or whatever, we'll fix it in post.
Yep.
right? We'll fix it in post. Whatever
We
it
should
is,
fix it free.
we'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
wanted uh, us to have this conversation because listen, you've been involved in some great stuff. I've been involved in some great stuff.
Oh,
I've been
yes.
involved in some real shit, some
Yeah,
really
me
bad
too.
stuff. So like,
Yeah.
we all hope. And we all like, have good
Well,
vibes.
and the thing was, and I said this in the other interview, was at the end of it, I said, after all of that, and I absolutely, I mean, I think there's, yes, I 100% agree. I can't, the reason I can't answer this or for this is I really, this, for some reason, I'm blanking on why we didn't fly you back. And whether, I can't, I don't know what it was. And
Okay.
we just cut together what we had and sent it to you. And I think that was wrong, and I apologize. At the same time, you'd shot what you shot, cut together very smoothly, and it was
Well,
like
yeah,
that. That's how I
yeah.
know you probably would have tweaked it, but I mean
No,
it.
no, no.
You know,
Might have
I
done more than tweak it. I'm not saying that it could. It
yeah,
might have turned out to be fucking what it was anyway. Because
yeah. I mean,
you took that cut and you took
yeah,
your music, your sound design. You took
yeah,
all of that and then went out and tried to sell it. Correct?
yeah, true,
Okay. And basically, people said we don't want anything to do with it. Correct? And then
correct,
correct. And then you went back and added a bunch of shit to it, correct?
correct,
And then tried to sell it again, right?
and did sell it again.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah, and
It
that
was
was
the it
that
was the
was
helicopter that. Yeah. I'm not trying to listen, Bey, I love you,
oh
and we've had so
yeah, I
much
love you too,
fun.
man.
I just, I'm not angry. I'm not like, this
Thank
is
God.
20. There's
No, and it was
20.
like, you know what the thing was, and even when these different things went up, I mean, there were people making mean comments, and I was like, I said to them, I said, why are you trying to stir up the brothers, meaning you and me? I mean, this is right after you and I had our phone conversation, every 20 years, like clockwork. So, we got on the phone, we laughed, but I did say on the interview, I said my recollection of Michael was that we were friends, and
Yes,
that
yes,
I
dear
and that
friends.
we would just laugh our asses off. And the day, and this is worthy of note, was Henry Luck, who was the former Wall Street guy, who was the owner of Ace, considered himself, perhaps uniquely, to be a director manqué. And he directed this film called The Forest. And there was a character in that movie called Pete. And he'd been played by another actor. And when Michael turned up, Henry offered a bag of money to Michael, to you, to say, would you come and shoot this character for my movie, The Forest? And, hey, what the hell? A gig's a gig, right? But I do remember just the pain of the laughter of that day because it was you were working in Pete's pharmacy and you had a white coat with Pete. And I don't know why that was funny, but it just when you appeared in the doorway of my office in your pharmacy coat with Pete, and
Well,
then I think you were clinging on the edge of somewhere. You were going to you're on the edge of a precipice and
well,
wriggle your fingers. And
yeah,
Henry was such an
I was
odd duck.
I
Like
was
I've
trying
said
to
before, he
crawl. I
was,
was trying to crawl out of something, and we were all laughing so. Me and you were laughing so hard, but
oh, it was just painful.
it was like a day. He gave me 10 grand.
Yeah, yeah,
But the
yeah.
thing about it, Bey, is it's not on IMDb.
No,
And it doesn't come
he,
on
he never, he
IMDb
made,
that I
yeah,
directed the,
no, he made many other movies that could never be released, and they did a couple of pictures after Blood Bond. They did films that make Blood Bond look like Citizen Kane. That's why I think you estimate yourself as a director because you should see the pic. I did one good movie. I did the best movie that could be done, but it was not because of Henry. It was in spite of him that I learned how to kind of work around him. The Basil Fawlty of
yes,
China
yes,
Studios.
yes,
And
he
he did
was.
this film called Borderland, which I think was good. But then I realized that's kind of as good. You could keep doing films at that level. And my desire was to do bigger and different and better movies. And it was after that I did Crouching Tiger, Lady Blood, other films with other people. So it worked out, thankfully. But I didn't want to get stuck at the studio and just be doing films at that level. He then did other films after that. And I kind of have I don't like as a filmmaker to be critiquing other people's films too loudly, but the films they did afterwards, if you saw them, you would go, my God, Blood Bond looks pretty good, because they were
But that was
just
the crew that I got to work with.
that's true.
What I wanted you to know too, Bey, that
Yeah.
you mentioned something about the Screen Actors Guild and
Yes.
an idea
I don't
that
know. I didn't know if you wanted to mention that now, because I don't want to put you into any difficult situation.
no,
I'm
no, no,
sorry,
you
but what?
can no, because no, uh, you mentioned on the podcast
Yeah.
that there was a situation where either you needed some voiceover work, you needed voice. I've forgotten what it was, but and I had said to you like, well, you need to talk to the Screen Actors Guild because it wasn't something that I was worried about. It wasn't me going like, this guy did this and this guy did that. I was worried about my fucking self. I
No,
was worried
so-
about that maybe I had done something bad, and
right.
and therefore the
No,
Screen
the
Actors
Screen
Guild
Actors-
would go like,
Yeah.
oh, you went over to China and you made this movie and you didn't tell us this and that. We're on probation or you're on suspension or whatever.
No, my recollection of it, and I think it's borne out. Went back and looked at some of the exchanges. Was I had a hard time getting from anybody in your management or agency at the time an accurate list of what the SAG requirements were. I felt on Blood Bond we actually fulfilled them perhaps more readily than we had on Dragon Squad, because things like the working hours and the turnaround were ignored throughout Dragon Squad. But on Blood Bond, you set the schedule. So, I mean, it wasn't too onerous. And I felt we had kind of then when you put your foot down and said, look, we really need to get this cleared with SAG, which is perfectly, within your rights. I called them and I said, hypothetically, if I had shot a film with one of your
Yeah,
kind of
I
like
know.
members, what would I do to get right with the union and do this and do that and do that? And the guy just said to me, did you have the guy in China? You paid him already and he's been paid in full? I said, yes. And he says, don't, why are you bothering me?
Yeah,
Most of our members make not in, no, don't make a living
correct.
wage.
And
If you give them a bag of money,
I was always paid every dime, whether it was per diem. I
yeah,
was put up in an incredible. The hotel that I stayed at in China was
yeah.
absolutely
Also,
phenomenal. I was
huge.
the only person in it, but like the whole
We had,
China,
remember that we had a masseuse for you and Jennifer.
yeah.
We basically, I whatever we could do to make it a more pleasurable experience. But yeah, so I felt bad about that. And
I
the
didn't
other
need
thing,
a masseuse. I needed a hammer.
but what was funny was, when we, on the when we're talking about SAG, there was a provision they had, which was I don't think any Chinese producer
I've
would
never heard
accept.
of this provision, and I don't. And Jim can talk
They
about
may have
this.
done. They may have done away with
But
it.
I don't think there's
I
any provision that says you need to hold a bunch of money in a
no,
place in case the movie makes money. First of all, I've never gotten any money from any production I've done for the last.
Maybe SAG just keep the money. I don't know. But at the time,
Well,
it was such a strange provision. I'm pretty sure I've got an email
you tell
from them with the list
you
of
tell me
things.
what you think the provision was. I want to ask Jim if he's ever heard of this
The
before.
provision was that there would be actors that had a profit participation in the film,
Yeah,
that their anticipated revenues from the release of the film
yeah.
would be sent to a SAG account and held in what is the word when you hold money and you
Jim?
don't
Escrow.
escrow, yeah.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, you would provide accounts for what the film cost to make and what it went back. And if it hadn't made money, then the money would be refunded to you. And no Hong Kong producer, including me, was going to go along with that. They may have stopped doing it now, but I actually, in the wake of, because I realized that as good as my memory is, there was stuff I really got wrong, and it was important stuff, like whether you cut the film or not. I went back and looked at the emails and to see the back and forth. The other thing was, and
Jim,
I really regret this. I'm really happy that we kind of reconnected, because
Me
in
too.
my memory, and actually this was going to be in the book, was going to be everything ended very acrimoniously. But I remember the last email you sent me, or I don't remember, I read it. The last email that you ever sent me of that era was when Elizabeth was going to have the twins, Sean and Tyre. At the time, the last message you said was, "Congratulations, you're such a great dad. You are to your three boys, and I'm sure you
You
will
were
be
a good
too."
father with your kids.
And that was that. And then later, I remember Daniel wanted you to come back to China to do another movie playing a genius scientist. And I reached out to you guys, and I didn't know the lay of the land because, people, that maybe you held a grudge or there was some bad feeling. And I remember Jennifer kind of had written back and just said that you weren't interested at that time. But I'll tell you this, I went back to
Oh,
Daniel and said,
I
"Yeah,
was
I want to
probably
do
in
it."
I was probably in rehab.
Maybe. She didn't mention that bit. But then I went to Daniel. I said, how about so and so and so and so and so and so? And he goes, "Nah, if we can't get Michael, don't bother." So,
Well,
who you should get back in contact
tell
with?
Daniel I'm up for anything he's got
That's
from
it.
here on
You should
in.
get back. You know what? Step one, you get to it's a 12-step program. Me, Sammo Hung, Simon Yam, Maggie Q, and then you should be on Ballard, the show she's doing now, the spin-off from Bosch, whatever this thing is she's
Oh,
doing
Is
really?
she
now.
doing it in
Wow.
America?
Yeah,
What's it called?
yeah.
What's it called?
Ballard,
Yeah,
Ballard,
yeah.
Ballard,
I'm happy.
ARD.
What's the name of that actor? Who's the Bosch? I'm happy for him. He's been around for a long
He's got
time.
an
Yeah.
odd kind of name, Tolliver,
Yes.
something
Yes.
Tolliver.
Yeah. Very
Yeah,
good. Yes.
good actor.
He's been around for a
He's been
long
married
time.
5 times. He's been married 5 times. There's obviously something wrong with him.
Well,
But
the good news is that he married 5 times before he got that show. Now that he's got
that's
that,
it. You know, you know. It's
yeah.
like when a friend of mine lost his job and he had 5 kids, and I said, "The good news is 2 of them are mine." but but,
It's
but
Titus
anyway,
Titus
so
Welliver is his name.
Titus
say
Welliver.
what?
Titus Welliver. That's
That's
his.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He came
He's
into
a
the
nice guy.
I
and
definitely want to reconnect you. We should do another call. I mean, actually, he'd probably come on the show if we asked him.
Well,
If you want him, Daniel Lee. But with Daniel, I mean, again, telling I don't tell tales out of school, but he did a run of period action films in China, and I kind of felt with Dragon Squad and the first one of those Three Kingdoms that he would have had doing something. I don't know. The Chinese industry compared to South Korea has somewhat diminished in terms of its global footprint, and I'm not sure it's something. I guess relevant to the system, the way films are made in China, different to the way we used to make them in Hong Kong, very different to the way they do them in South Korea, because South Korea is this like, very small place and has come to dominate, the global industry, whether it's TV, films,
South
pop
Korea.
bands,
South
everything.
Korea.
South Korea, yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane. It's
Right.
really extraordinary the way that that's taken over, and it's kind of become the new Hong Kong, because Hong Kong in the 80s and 90s, this tiny little place, and they were cranking out movie after movie,
Yes.
drama, action, horror comedy, horror drama, and I got in at
Well,
the tail end of it.
Well,
That was it.
I wanted to ask you, Bey, because uh, since we've spent time together, since I've been
Yeah.
in Hong Kong, that whole takeover of we with the West or whatever gave Hong Kong back to China, and China some
Correct.
protests and everything. And when I talked to you on the phone, I said like, ugh, like what's it like
Yeah.
now? Like thinking, and you kind of like gave me the impression it's like, as long as you're not running
think-
around with
no, I
signs.
mean-
Yeah. Go
There
ahead.
had been a change. I think if you were overtly political or overtly outspokenly political in a way that the government does not like, you have an issue.
Yeah.
I've never been a political animal. I'm a humanist. I mean, I'm vote for any party that makes people less hungry, better educated, less poor, whatever those things are that no one seems to focus on. If we can do that, I don't care which party it is. So I'm not interested in the politics of it. So I was, other than on a humanist level, I would never be making statements of like, this Hong Kong should be this, Hong Kong should be that. So for me, living and working day by day, it didn't really have
And to
a
this
bigger
day,
effect.
it has not. And
To this day, for me, it has not, and I think for most people in Hong Kong, it's not, because most people in Hong Kong are very pragmatic and not really political. One thing I would say is that our Hong Kong filmmaking kind of ethos
Yes.
changed because the aim became to make movies that would work in the mainland Chinese market. And
Right.
that's a very
Right.
different market to the one
Yes.
that Hong Kong used to be, Asia used to be, the West used to be. So I think Hong Kong cinema has declined, and I think Chinese cinema, given the massive amounts of money, the people, the resources that one has, I would think you should be able to, it should be functioning better than it is and producing more great films than it has. So that's my feeling. But I was lucky because I branched out, and in recent years, the films I guess that have done the best were Fury and Furies, which are two films that we did in Vietnam, which was another incredible experience. I mean, probably as much as you had a culture shock when you came to Hong Kong, I had it when I came to work in Vietnam. Hold on a minute, I'm just going to get a cable
Go ahead.
I also just
from
wanted to
behind
say
me.
too, in terms of
All
the
right.
South, we were talking about South Korea kind of taking over production. We were talking about
Yes.
Parasite two
Yeah.
episodes ago, how well that did. Squid Games right now is the biggest
Yeah,
show on TV. I mean,
absolutely.
it has
Right.
really just kind of taken over the Asian market.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like.
And with Vietnam, what was interesting was there was the backstory to it was interesting. I was at the American film market and I ran into a friend of mine called Dustin Nguyen, or as he likes to be called, that Asian guy from 21 Jump Street. So I always introduce him to people. I say, "Here's my friend Dustin," or as he likes to be called. So he was the Asian guy in 21 Jump Street, and we were both drunk at a party during the American film market, and he wandered up to me. Actually, what's funny, that same year, you and I met Michael and with Elizabeth, and we had lunch, and we laughed so hard. Again, I thought we were going to have hernias. It was just
We had
memories
a
of
lot of
blood
fun.
in LA. But anyway, so then he gave me this was so long. He gave me a disc. He gave me like a DVD disc because I put it in my pocket. This is his new movie, and I came back to Hong Kong, and I have this habit of just playing something in the background. And I was a bit jet lagged. I'm working at my computer. I just put this film on, found it in my pocket. Oh, I'll put this on. Played it, and it's this movie called The Rebel. It was a period action film in Vietnam. I took a look at it, and I was, oh my God, this is incredible. Who's this girl? Who's this guy? And at the time, I was working for Miramax. And those days, I just called up and said, book me a ticket. I'm going to Saigon. There's this great movie. There's this great director. And I just flew out the next day. And that began my working relationship with another incredible Vietnamese person, Veronica Ngo. And Veronica worked on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon 2 with and for me when we shot that in New Zealand, which was this big Netflix epic.
Yeah.
And we were at their premiere in Beijing, and she said to me, I want to do this other movie in Vietnam. It's going to be a kind of a version of Taken, but it's like a mother and her daughter. And the tagline is they've messed with the wrong mother. And she goes after the
Yeah.
guys who've
Yeah.
trying to human traffic her daughter, who's a little girl. And this became huge, and it was like the most popular, the most successful film at that point in the history of Vietnam. And it was nominated for an Oscar and what have you. So that was really interesting. And then we did, a couple of years later, we did a prequel called Furies. And right now I'm working on the third one, a Fury 3, which, hey, we'll do it in LA, and Michael, you should be in that one.
Yeah. Well,
Actually, the plot line is very similar to the Blood
I'm
Bond.
a lot cheaper than I used to be.
That's not what Jennifer told me. But anyway, so yeah, I'm working on that at the moment. But those movies, I think the first film, maybe the Netflix license has expired because I was recommending a friend to watch it. The second one is on Netflix. The first one, maybe it's on Amazon or one of the other ones. Fury and Furies, Furie and Furies. Actually, I followed the exact Alien model, Aliens, and the third one is going to be Fury 3. So
Oh, okay.
that's what we were doing. So I did those three. I did those two, and that was Vietnam. Have you been to Vietnam?
I want to go so badly. I always fly over it
It's
when I go to Thailand, and when I'm in Thailand,
yeah.
Australia, or whatever. God, I'd love to go there.
It's incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, it's what's interesting about it was even though it's obviously, has a similar ruling party to the one in China, it's still very much francophone. It's very much francophile. It's like
Is it
it
really?
feels like a French, a
Yes. Yeah.
European
Yeah. Yeah.
environment,
Because the
the
French were there
architecture,
before. Yeah. Yeah.
what they did, which I think has been to the detriment of Hong Kong, is that in Vietnam, they welcomed back the diaspora, all of the kids who had been war babies who grew up in like Orange County, they grew up in Norway, they grew up in Germany. They all came back to Vietnam and they spoke Vietnamese. They were ethnically Vietnamese, but they had this international mindset, including Veronica, my producing partner and friend who had been in Norway. And it was really interesting because when we did Crouching Tiger, we had different directors helping us on the film, and one was Morten Tildum, and Morten had directed a film called Passengers
Yeah.
and Imitation
yeah.
Game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's a Norwegian director and interesting guy. So he came in and I said, "Oh, this girl's coming in tomorrow and she's Vietnamese, but she was raised in Norway." And he was like, "Really?" And then when
Yeah.
they met, it was the
Yeah.
funniest thing because he was like, "He de booty schmooder her." And she would be like, "He de booty Lilyhammer schmeedy." So we were on the set. We would have like him directing in Norwegian, and then Yuen Mo Ping directing in Chinese, and another guy directing in Vietnamese. So it was, and me directing in English. So it was Tower of
Did
Tower
those
of Babel.
directors actually
Tower of
have
Babel.
interpreters?
Yes, yes, they
Just
should
giving
have.
you shit.
We need four of them. No, it was crazy. Oh, Crouching Tiger is also on Netflix because we began production and it was an independent film, and midway through it was acquired by and financed by Netflix. And even the second Furies was Netflix original, so they've been very good to us, very good to me.
Let me ask you this, Bey. Do you wish you'd never heard of Miramax? Do you
No,
wish you'd
because
never gone to work for them?
No, I don't, because I mean, I think the issues that I had in my own life were not directly a result of that. I was not involved with anything relevant to Harvey or any of that, because I was
That
always
you
in Hong
you
Kong.
didn't get the wave.
Oh yeah, no, I
landing
had
on you?
I had my own,
But wasn't that
obviously.
don't you think that had a lot to do with the fact that you were working at Miramax?
It's an indirect thing. I mean, there's two aspects to it. One was when I was with Miramax, I was in Hong Kong and I would basically see, Harvey twice a year when he flew in, or I would see him in passing at Cannes or an American film market. So there was no interaction or no awareness of anything that
Yeah.
might have anything that people think about of that era. I didn't know, and
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah.
really know about it even to this
Neither did
day,
I.
other than what I would read like everybody.
Yeah.
So I just did my job at Miramax, and it was a fantastic experience, and I got to work with filmmakers and do films that I would otherwise never got to do. Many years after, there was a journalist in Hong Kong who had this aim to, she basically wrote a headline because she met a disgruntled actress that I had worked with,
Yep.
who I'd had a complicated relationship with.
Yep.
And she heard that I worked for Harvey Weinstein, like thousands of people in the movie industry.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So she went and wrote a headline, Hong Kong rep of Harvey Weinstein Miramax accused by multiple women. And then she set out to try to find a way to cobble a story together. And unfortunately at that time, in my own life, I was really, you talk about being in rehab. I think I should have been. My life was just chaos. And if I had particularly been in a functional working space with my soulmate Elizabeth at that time, we would have chewed up Selena Cheng and spat her out on the side of the road. But I handled it really badly. And so I don't blame Miramax. I don't blame anybody. I blame the reporter because she obviously wanted to make a name for herself at my expense.
Yeah.
And it was a cheap shot because it was like, of all of the filmmakers in Hong Kong, the only one to be accused of anything like this was me, the white guy. So it was easy. You could virtue signal, oh, we took care of this guy who was related to Harvey and Miramax, and he's been taken care of, and now all's good. If she really cared about anything beyond making a name for herself, she would have gone after all the other people. But maybe then she'd be floating in the harbor.
Yeah. I was going.
I took a hit for that. And it was really brutal. It was probably the worst thing that
Did
that
that
happened.
did that
Other than losing my parents, it was the worst thing
did that affect
to
your
happen in
did
my
that
life.
affect your filmmaking ability?
I'll tell you, it's really interesting because in the immediate wake of the story coming out, and I dealt with it badly and been drinking and self-medicating and all other crazy stuff was going on, and I wasn't maintaining a very good family unit, work unit. Of course, when you're at the inside of that chaos, you don't see it. It's later. You look back on your own life and you go, what was I thinking? What was wrong with me? But I remember, it's interesting you say, because where we had actually a story just to play with, and in there, apart from the furniture, there was a DVD of the Bob Dylan documentary by D.A. Pennebaker, Don't Look Back.
Oh,
So I thought,
wow.
okay, that's advice. And then I went out, and it was a beautiful, like today, a full moon. And I was sitting drinking a bottle of whiskey on the beach. And I looked out and saw this wonderful moonlight, like a path on the waves. And I thought, I'll just get another half through this bottle and I'm going to swim out down that line as far as I can go and then just sink into the waves. And that's going to be it.
Yeah.
And I, as a Buddhist, in my concept, when you achieve nirvana and you kind of like dissolve into nothingness, it's like a star under the stars and a warm night in the sea, and you dissolve into love and light. That's what'll happen. And then I don't need to worry about stuff anymore, which after half a bottle of Jack is the kind of stuff that rolls through your brain.
Yeah.
Fortunately, and the reason I'm on your podcast is I kept drinking and passed out, so I couldn't to oblivion. But I woke up in the early hours.
Where did
really
I put that
cold.
gun? Where did that's my problem. I can't ever find
That's
that.
the thing in Hong Kong. No one has guns, otherwise it would have been easy.
Right.
But then, so I put the whiskey. I woke up on. Michael, we know how this feels. I woke up freezing cold on the beach with a raging headache and a half bottle of Jack in my hand.
Yeah.
And then I sat there looking out, and there was a fisherman out to sea, and he just cast his net in a beautiful circle out onto the waves.
Yeah.
And I thought he looks familiar, and I realized that I'd actually been there for a few days before I hit that kind of moment of satori, of enlightenment. And I thought, this guy every day goes out. Maybe he catches fish, maybe he doesn't. And if there is a path back for you, Bey, as a filmmaker, as a writer, as a family man, as a friend, it's going to be getting up every day and just going back to work. That's going to be it.
Yep.
You know, that you be like the fisherman. You catch something, you don't catch something, you got to get up and go back to work. And that's what I did. And now I'm sitting in my lovely house, that, you know, the fruit of my efforts. And it worked out. And I kind of, over years, reclaimed my family, reclaimed my career. I think what made it easier was that it was a cobbled together story. And if there'd been any real criminal acts by me, that it would have been harder to do that, because people would have said, oh, but you did this, but you did that. And I didn't really. It was a made up story by one journalist who wanted to make a name for herself.
Well, Bey, we kind of are at a time that we usually call this. I want to thank you so much for coming on. I love you. You're just a true friend, and in any relationship, sometimes there's going to be a miscommunication. And I just want you to know how much you mean to me. And get me back over to Vietnam. I'd love to.
Same from my side, and I'm back and forth to the States all the time, and it'll be wonderful to reconnect. And as I say, only regret when I look back at the final exchanges that we had before, like, going our separate ways, it was so positive. And I don't know, it's like I mentioned just now, you know, when you have a certain mindset. When you're in that mindset, you see things a certain way. And later you look back at yourself and you feel like a stranger to yourself. And that's how I am sometimes. I think, what was I thinking? Why didn't I keep calling Michael? Why didn't I maintain the friendship? You know, but I did. But I know that when Daniel wanted you again, I had no compunction about reaching out right away and trying to. And I didn't. And I know, Michael, bless your heart. I mean, you've been through some these challenges yourself, and in a way more profound than whatever I went through with the Miramax thing. So, you know, my heart goes out to you, my friend, and, you know, you're always a brother to me. And those times and those experiences are very dear to my heart.
Me too.
When you read the book, I think you'll laugh and be happy.
All right. When's it coming out? When are you going to finish it?
I'm finishing. I've written I'll send these to you. I did 2 books about Hong Kong action cinema. I did a book about Bruce Lee that was very successful. I'm just finishing one about Jackie Chan, and I think my book will be the next one. So I would say Probably the end of this year.
Okay. We'll look forward
Maybe
to
November,
it.
around the time of my birthday.
Great.
So I'll send you copies, and hey, maybe I'll come back on the show to talk some more about the book when it comes out. And
All right.
that'd be
Yes, please.
fantastic. But
That
I've been
would be.
catching up on this. This is such a wonderful thing that you're doing, and the stuff you're sharing is so wonderful. And it's also very important because I think it's giving life lessons to a new generation of filmmakers and people that will inherit the world, and I think that's really important.
Yeah. What world is left?
Yes, that's right.
All right, Bey. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This has been so
Thank you.
illuminating.
It's been
This
cool.
has been terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bless you. All right, you guys.
Someone dirtier than you are doing me